I must thank the organizers of the conference for their kind invitation. I shall be presenting my paper on the conservation project of Frere Hall in Karachi. I must acknowledge the cooperation of Sindh Exploration and Adventure Society and US Ambassador's Fund for Cultural Preservation and the Karachi Metropolitan Corporation for this project. A special thanks are due to Dr. Asma Ibrahim for her able coordination in the project. Frere Hall was built in Karachi between 1863 and 1865. It only took 2 years to get completed. Looking at the great volume of the building, it was not a mean achievement, and its success is attributed to the Works Committee, which was headed by Marston, who was also the police chief of the city. It was basically a citizens' initiative which went ahead and people collected money to have one townhouse, and the scheme was very much envisaged, and the architect was able to create a splendid piece of a structure in Gothic style that resembled the European cathedrals. It was situated within the cantonment area, but in civil lines. As we are aware that the civil lines are the area which is mostly dedicated to the commercial activity, residence of the civilians, and specifically the high-ups in the administration, like commissioner, collector, and later on the governor. All good hotels were situated within this area, and it catered for the officers also, who were mostly on move and frequently transferred. Frere Hall catered to the needs of the town, and it hosted all major functions and ceremonies. This was a place where mostly all classes of citizenry visited, and its frequenting this place made it a very popular site among the citizens of Karachi. And as I mentioned, the architect Henry Wilkins was active at that time in Bombay, and he has created a very good array of his legacy, which is present in Bombay, Ahmedabad, and also in Karachi. The Frere Hall housed General Library, and later on Museum of Karachi was also there. The citizens of Karachi renamed this town hall to the memory of Sir Bartle Frere in appreciation of the contribution of Frere as a human being who was very much liked by the people of Karachi generally, and also the people of Sindh, especially because of his overall contribution in administration. He was the one who created the postal system and also encouraged the railways, and in his time it had a great impact on socio-economic activities in the town. The lawns of Frere Hall had many monuments and good works of memorials, such as the Victoria Memorial and also King's Memorial. And these lawns also had the musical stand. Citizens also contributed towards decorating these lawns by donating fountain like Dinsha fountain, and there were also created military memorials after the First World War. The Dinsha Memorial was actually an effort by one of the philanthropists of the city to create his contribution and bringing it to the attention of the citizenry. He was the person who also donated few of his personal buildings for the social usage. After partition, this became the late premises for the state ceremonies, and once the capital was moved out of Karachi and it went to Islamabad, the Frere Hall suffered the immense neglect, and this neglect is a great toll on it because the maintenance was just gone. And the efforts at the renovation were half-hearted, and the maintenance works were really ill-gotten and resulting in more perpetual neglect and damage to the hall. Karachi Municipal Corporation, at certain stages when it was moving to the greater status of Metropolitan Corporation, made efforts to revive this hall and its gardens, and these efforts actually were appreciated by the citizenry. But again, something changed, and it was the times when the terrorism was at its peaks in Pakistan, and Karachi also suffered greatly. Being in the vicinity of US consulate, this monumental building was actually abandoned, and the people were forbidden to visit this area due to the security reasons. Nevertheless, we saw some real bad blasts happening around this area, and there were series of blasts on both the sides of it, and those affected the hall greatly, especially the woodwork suffered immensely. This was the reason that we noticed the very bad condition of the hall, and we moved Sindh government for conservation scheme, and they approved it. But due to the vicinity of US consulate there and Consul General's house on the other side of it, the works couldn't start, and this remained it stand still, and because of the time lapse, after a few years the scheme was just abandoned, but the condition remained the same. After the US consulate moved from this premises to my Karachi, its present position, Sindh Exploration and Adventure Society made up a proposal, and this initiative was appreciated, and there were the collaborations. US Ambassadors Fund for cultural preservation, and KMC just came very eagerly to be part of the conservation project. And looking at the neglect which has happened there, the causes for these were the general neglect, one. Second was the leakage and seepage from the ceiling, and also the damage which was done because of the ill-gotten additions which were there. Restrooms were created on the first floor and also on the ground floor, which contributed greatly to the damage of woodwork. There were so many fires because of the bad wiring, and the floor, the timber floor, was greatly damaged and it lost strength and it was sagging. The majestic stairway is also moving, and it has moved a couple of inches and it is sagging, and it has become dangerous as well. The doors and windows were shattered due to the blast, and they are in very bad repairs. Likewise, the towers and the spires are in a very bad shape, and there is a tilt which is very visible, and it became dangerous and it has to be secured. The works started, and the woodwork which has suffered due to the fires, frequent fires, are being treated for the conservation. Within the recent past, there was a change of scheme, and in early 60s, the roof of the Frere Hall was altered, and that has actually led to the damages, drastic damages. And these alterations actually removed the original copper sheet which was covering the Frere Hall, and it was replaced by the GI sheets. And GI sheet, as you know, has not long life, and it has given way, and there is every possibility of its going anytime. Within the life of Frere Hall, one good thing also happened when during the 80s, 𝐒𝐚𝐥𝐞𝐞𝐦𝐮, the great artist of Pakistan, painted a mural in Frere Hall. That is the ceiling of the first floor. It is wonderful happening, and this was done by him, and it is also in a very precarious condition. When we started our conservation investigations, we went to see the condition in the soil. We wanted to see whether the structure itself is stable or not. Are there any dangers? What are the causes of seepage in the walls? So we downed investigation pits as well, and the investigation was done for the soil stability. We went ahead also by manual investigation, made the sketches, measurements, and various elements were then studied. And this investigation has greatly made us aware of the dangers which are troubling the building itself. So the modern methods of investigation are also incorporated into the SWOT plan, and we are developing the 3D measurements of the parts of the structure which are endangered. The conservation works which are identified required that 𝐒𝐄𝐀𝐒 mural has to be secured, woodwork has to be attended because it is now in a very dangerous condition. Electric supply has to be streamlined. This wiring, which is very bad, cannot be allowed to function anymore. The staircase, which is now moving forward, has to be stabilized and pulled back. Spires has to be secured, and those bathrooms which were created there and which have damaged the wooden floor underneath has to be cleared, and the floor has to be secured. And then there is also one great need that the portions of floor in the hall at the first floor has to be strengthened because it is not in a position to sustain more than 20 people at a one time. So those parts are to be actually attended. Birds have become the hazard, and they are in a very great number. The pigeons especially, they storm the hall, and their droppings are acidic, and the timber is suffering because of that. So we went ahead with the stabilization of the mural. It was conserved fully and stabilized. This mural is called 𝐒𝐄𝐀𝐒, and it is the work which was not finished yet. Unfortunately, 𝐒𝐄𝐀𝐒, while working on this mural, died, and it has remained his last major work. Now it is secured and in a very good condition. We have controlled the birds now. Certain parts of floor have been rehabilitated. Both of these spires have been attended to and secured, and the works on the doors and windows have just begun. It will be followed by the electric connection and wirings. We'll be looking into it in a very careful way, because as you know, the hall is put to various usages. It caters for the communities, it caters for the artists in various fields, the painters, fine artists, the performing art, and also it holds exhibitions, many of these. So there has to be certain distribution points for electric wiring, and it should be secure because it is the only source of fire, as have been observed during the last few years. The 26 incidents of fire have been reported, and this project is going to be completed at the end of 2023, and this is going to be a great contribution towards the city of Karachi by the sponsors of this scheme. These are, as I told you, the Sindh Exploration and Adventure Society, the US Ambassadors Fund for Cultural Preservation, and also KMC. I thank you for your kind attention, ladies and gentlemen.